Learn how you can develop apps with Azure SQL Database for free with the new Azure SQL Database emulator, as well as getting some other benefits from working with containers and CI/CD. This week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. Today, I'm joined by Drew, and we have a really exciting topic. So, Drew, first, I just want to welcome you on Data Exposed.
Thanks, Anna. Really glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
It is going to be really fun. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can develop apps with Azure SQL Database for free. And yes, you heard that correctly. This is something I just learned about. Really exciting. Drew, what does this mean?
So, as a PM in SQL, focusing on developers and making things easier for them to develop apps with Azure SQL, one of the challenges that I've seen is when you're working with Azure SQL Database, it's got all these great features, but sometimes you just want to work locally and have a little bit more flexibility. And I want to try something out quick, but I don't want to spin up a new Azure SQL Database. Now, through containers, you can have a local version of your Azure SQL Database. If I can show you an example real quick of an app I'm working on, I can show you kind of how it fits together.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I have a website. It's not real fancy. You just can kind of add different reactions and it'll track what the trending topics are. Overall, it's just a static web app, some Azure Function APIs, and then an Azure SQL database. If I want to change this app, I don't necessarily want to mess with the live production database, and I don't want to start a new database. So I'd like to do that for free. I'm going to pop over into Azure Data Studio where I have that database connected so I can see the data that's out there right now. But from that table, from these schemas, I can get a new copy of this database schema locally by bringing it into a SQL project. I've talked about SQL projects from time to time in terms of this tool for developing different database schemas. But what's really great about them in the context of working with Azure SQL Database is now you've brought a copy of your schema locally. So I can create a project from my database. And I'm going to call the target project my reactions. And I'm going to throw it in my sample sandbox. I'm going to create that project. So this is extracting the schema out. That means that I'll have files for each of the objects within the database. Do you know my favorite part about having files for schema objects is, Anna?
What?
That now you can bring it into source control. You have a file that represents a table. And so you can track the state in source control. It's like developing pieces of your app, but it's the database. I mean, I might be a geek, but that's really exciting to me.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's super valuable too, because you can see kind of the changes that are happening and you have one place that keeps track of all of it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So now I have my database project that matches those tables that we saw on the database.
Nice.
Here's where we can get started with our development. If I right click on that database project, there's a publish option. And it's going to walk me through publishing to a new Azure SQL Database instance. Looks like I need to change my target platform real quick to Azure SQL Database. There we go. Now, it will offer me a new Azure SQL local development container. This is going to bring me completely offline for my development needs. And you might have noticed,
cool because you don't have to specify like what region, what size, what anything. You just get the database because you don't care right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, frankly, the only thing I care about at the moment is that I'm going to choose between the two emulator versions. There's a full version that has more features, and then there's a light version that oftentimes covers your baseline functionality. And for me right now on my Mac, that's the one that I'm going to be using. And that's going to grab the Azure SQL Edge container. It's going to adjust it to be a little bit closer to Azure SQL Database, and it's going to deploy this whole schema right out to it. While that's happening, I could be grabbing like my Azure Function APIs and getting ready to work with those and update them and testing those locally with my new emulator container. The container is being deployed. So if I take a look at the containers that I have on my computer right now, we can see that a new one has been started. And that'll be ready to connect to here in just a moment once the DAC pack is finished deploying. The DAC pack that's deploying, again, has that whole schema in it. So as soon as I go connect to my local host now, we're going to see that same database right there for us.
Nice. So in like a minute or two, you were able to extract it from the existing one, save it, and create a local one. And now you can just get to developing.
Yep, exactly. So I've got a database running locally that I can do development on. I also have my database code in a repository, so I can check that in if I want to. And I'm ready to work on my app. So the database part is always exciting. It's great to have all these features, but at the same time, sometimes I want to be able to get on to working on my app code faster. And we were able to do that in just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So okay, so this solution is going to allow people to work for free, work quickly, and also be able to do things like CI/CD. Is that kind of right, Drew?
Yeah, that's right on. So I mentioned, you can check this stuff into code, the database project files. In your files, we've got the object definitions, but then there's also that .sql proj file.
Hmm.
When you check this into GitHub, there's a GitHub action, Azure SQL action, and you can tell it the connection string for your Azure SQL database, the path to that SQL project file, and that you want to publish your updates to it. And it'll take care of things like maybe updating an Azure firewall rule temporarily so that it can access the database. And then it's also going to update the database with the changes that you've made locally to your SQL project. So not only are you developing locally with the Azure SQL Database emulator, but because it's based on SQL projects, that you're then set up to publish to your database live later.
Wow, that is really cool. Okay, so you've convinced me. I'm going to go figure out how to do this. What are some tips for getting started?
So this is all based on containers. If you don't already have a container runtime like Docker, go ahead and make sure that you get that downloaded and set up. We do have a quick start in the docs. So if you go to the link in the description, it'll get you to these documentation where you got the quick start to get you going. But overall, it's going to be rooted in either VS Code or Azure Data Studio. So if you grab the SQL projects extension there, now you've got that publish option to set up a new container to develop locally. You don't have to have one already waiting for you.
Nice. Okay, and then just one quick question. Let's say I use VS Code all the time. Do I have to use Azure Data Studio? Do I have to use VS Code? Does it matter?
You can use either of them, both VS Code and Azure Data Studio. So I'm back in VS Code now. I've got a SQL projects extension for database projects in VS Code where I could be doing this as well. So you'd have the ability to say, I want to start a new Azure SQL database project from VS Code as well.
Awesome.
Your
Great.
choice.
Well, Drew, I think folks are ready to get started. Any final tips or tricks or things we missed you want to make sure folks know?
I want people to know that you've got a lot of flexibility when it comes for developing with Azure SQL Database. You can absolutely be connecting to those great serverless instances for development as well. But if you give containers a try, that'll give you some more flexibility for how you integrate with CI/CD and then just develop locally.
Awesome. Cool. I love it. Well, Drew, thanks so much for coming on the show. To our viewers, check the description for some of the links for getting started with this, like Drew mentioned. Also, leave us a comment and let us know what you think about this new advancement. If you like it, you want to see more things like it, anything like that, subscribe to our channel, and we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.